Hey guys, welcome to the video. So what we're going to look at today is the squat and how slight differences in squat stance, in where you place the bar, can make a change in how you squat, and it's going to be down to the individual. So this is the issue with YouTube videos, in that a lot of the statements that are made have to be general. They can't be specific because we don't know who is watching. So with that in mind, I'm going to have my partner Kat squatting and also myself squatting. We're built very differently, we both squat very differently. And perhaps out of this video you can take a few ideas for yourself for your own squat and try to experiment and see if your squat feels and looks any better. So today we're going to look at Kat's squat and we're going to look at my squat. They're going to look very different, and this is for many different reasons. Each of us, different height, different lever lengths, so torso, femur, tib, fib, all different. We also have to consider things that we can't even see, i.e. our hip socket is going to affect how our squats look. So with that in mind, let's take a look at each of our squats. So I'm just going to get Kat to squat. While she's squatting, I'm going to talk about a few things. Number one, I want to make sure her depth is correct. So we're looking for the hip crease to be beneath the knee. Number two, we're going to look at the center of the bar. Make sure that doesn't move horizontally as she squats. It needs to stay over the midfoot. So where the laces is tied, it should dissect her body. And then the third one, we want to make sure there's no excessive lumbar flexion, which is colloquially known as the butt wink. So Kat, if you just want to get yourself under the bar, just go for 5 reps. And we're going to look for those 3 things. So just squat as you normally would. So number 1, depth is good. Making sure the bar is dissecting her through her midfoot, where the laces would be tied on a shoe. There's a little bit of lumbar flexion, but nothing to be worried about. Once she's done her 5, she's going to rack it. Nice one. Cool. Okay. Nice one. So now I'm going to squat and show you how I squat. And we're going to look for those 3 things as well. So now you've seen how each of us squat normally. Now we're going to adjust a few variables. Now let's look at bar positioning. So both of us squat with a fairly low bar position. Now we're both going to squat with a high bar position and see how that plays out in our squat. So Kat, if you want to come over high bar, so let's have it on top of your traps. So we're going with a fairly standard high bar position. You can go a little bit higher than that still. That's it. Okay, let's see 5 and just see what happens to those 3 variables that we're looking at, remember? So I'd say we're seeing a bit more horizontal bar movement. Doesn't really lend itself to Kat's mobility and her build. Okay, now let's look at how a high bar squat affects me and my movement. So when I did those, I felt a lot of tension through my spine here. I'll have a look back and see how that affected my squat. So I do normally squat with a low bar position. When I tried that high bar earlier, it did feel really tight through my back. With that in mind, I'm going to try on my Olympic lifting shoes, so they've got a wedge in the bottom. And again, this is what I normally squat in even with low bar, but I'm going to try this with a high bar and let's see the difference that makes in how my squat looks. That felt a million times better. I would imagine I hit depth a lot easier as well. So we've seen the difference that both high bar and low bar affect each of us. Now let's look at an excessively wide stance and excessively narrow. So Kat, if you just want to come in, start with just 5 squats excessively wide. And again, we're looking at those three variables that change, making sure we're still trying to get depth. So we're seeing a lot more lumbar flexion. Normal bar position for cat here. There's no horizontal bar path, which is good. Cool, thank you, cat. And was also to hit depth. It also was able to hit depth quite comfortably. So now I'm going to squat with a wide stance. Let's see what happens with me. So I found that really hard to hit depth. I don't think I hit depth on any of those. So that's certainly not going to suit me. Now let's look at narrow stance. So cat, again, if you want to come in excessively narrow, let's go for 5. So what I've been trying to show you is that individuals will squat differently, so we have to change little things to make their squat as comfortable as can be, whilst getting those three variables as constant as possible. So making sure we're hitting depth, making sure there's no horizontal bar path, and also making sure there's no excessive lumbar flexion. So I hope this video has been helpful. Try those few things and see how your squat looks and feels.